Hey makeup friends, BH Cosmetics has recently released their Say It collection, which includes 6 different palettes as well as 6 different lip glosses. I have 4 of the palettes, 1 of the lip glosses, and some thoughts. So let's get into it. As always, I want to start off by welcoming you back to my channel, or if you are new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and on my channel, we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb. There are definitely going to be F-bombs in this video because some of these palette names include F-bombs. So I'm just going to stay true to the collection. I'm going to say the words as they're printed on the products, and we're all going to be adults about it. If you don't like swearing, this is probably a video to skip, and frankly, probably a collection to skip. But at any rate, let's get into it. So like I said, there are 6 different palettes. They retail for $15 each, and the lip glosses are $9, also available in 6 different shades. I'm going to talk about the lip gloss really quickly because I don't like it. It's not what I'm wearing right now. What I'm wearing is from Victoria Beckham. It's one of her lip tints in the shade Cherie. The lip gloss. So I picked up the pink one here, whose shade I'll never know. So let's just go over to the website. Looking like a snack. That is the name of this shade. If you are okay with minty kind of lip glosses, you're going to like this. This is very similar to the Buxom sensation, where it's just very cooling on the lips, not exactly tingly, not particularly plumping, just very mentholated and cooling, and I don't like that sensation. So while the lip gloss itself is quite pretty, I just will not wear it. I know I won't because I don't like that kind of sensation. Regardless, I figure I may as well at least do a hand swatch to show you. It is very glossy. It does have a little bit of sparkle in it, but you can't feel any like gritty bits of glitter. What? Wow, I need to sleep more. There are no bits of glitter in it. You can't feel that on your lips. So it is very comfortable to wear in that sense, but I just really don't like that sensation, and I find that it lasts for a very long time. So therefore, I didn't even want to wear it for the video because I don't like it. So those are my thoughts on the gloss, such as they are. And now onto the palettes. So like I said, there are 6 different options available. I picked up 4 of them. There were 2 that I just wasn't sure that I would get a lot of use out of. I'm still debating them. I could pick them up when I pick up next month's Birthstone palette, but for now, I'm good with what I've got. And in fact, I'm overly good with what I've got because, as you'll see as we go through this video, I've only used 3 of them. You know what, I may as well address it now. I just am very burned out in basically every area of my life, and I'm finding that I don't have a lot of motivation lately. It's nothing major. There's not been any sort of like massive catastrophe going on. It's just a culmination of all things living in a pandemic and just everything from pressures at work to pressures with parenting to just general life and just trying to keep up and maintain the household and all of that kind of thing. It's just been a lot. I have lost my motivation in essentially every area of my life, and so I kept sitting down to film with this other palette that I didn't use, and I just kept then walking out of the room. So I figured, why bother? Why force myself to do this? Because it just kept delaying this video over and over again. So I've axed it. I haven't done it. I did this look here instead today, and I feel much better about it. And now I'm sitting down and talking to you. So we've got some forward momentum. I might use the palette later on in a different video. I might not. I make no promises, but I will talk about it in today's video and I will swatch it for you. So getting back into the palettes, they retail for $15 each. And like I said, there are 6 of them. So let's go through the 4 that I have. So the one that is on my eyes right now is called Let That Shit Go. And there is the color story. And what I really like about this palette is that it's just so nicely balanced. You have the greens, you have the neutrals, but the tones really play nicely with each other. And there's a very good mix of mattes and shimmers. I just think it's a very intelligently curated set of colors. And for the fact that it only has 9 shades in there, they made a really good selection, and I think this is a very versatile palette for only having 9 shades. Obviously, this is the one that is on my eyes right now. I may as well move over here so you can see the application of this while I talk a little bit about these shades. So what I have found from palette to palette is that the mattes are very pigmented, but not stubborn. So they don't just set down in place when you apply them with the brush and then refuse to blend out. They do blend out really nicely. And I found that they also blend into each other very nicely as well. Sometimes you get shadows that just sort of compete for territory and they just don't want to blend together. That has not been my experience with these palettes. I'm actually blown away with how well these palettes perform. Like the mattes are just so nice. They do produce some kick up in the pan. I've mentioned this many times on my channel. That is not necessarily off-putting to me so long as the powder that's on the bristles remains on the bristles when I do a little tap off, and that happens here. So that excess just falls back into the pan, but there's still a lot of product on the bristles, which makes applying it very easy. The shimmers are outstanding in all of these palettes. So I did not need to use any setting spray with them, and even when I don't use a setting spray or when I don't use a particularly sticky eyeshadow base, they still last all day. They will transfer a little bit on my lids because I have hooded lids, so that just happens all the time, but they don't just disappear over the course of the day. They don't actually crease up. They don't start flaking away. These are beautiful shimmer shadows. Next up, we have this palette here called Low Key Love You, and it is a beautiful red themed palette here. And that shade right there in the middle is an impeccable true red matte shadow. And when you blend it out, it doesn't pull pink, it stays red, which I really like that BH is able to do that. They have done it in previous palettes. I'm thinking in particular the Lunar New Year palette, but they've done it again and it's chef's kiss perfection because so many red mattes look beautiful in the pan and they're pretty on the eyes, but they're just not red. And if you want red, this palette delivers. So again, I'm just gonna slip on over here so we can watch a brief application of it. And again, I don't know what more to really say about these palettes because again, you have that nice mix of mattes and shimmers, although there are more mattes in this palette than the previous. And you have more of a monochromatic theme going on with this one, but there's still enough difference in the depths of the shadows that, again, it lends itself to creativity. You can go full bore red, you can go really dark and dramatic with that inclusion of the burgundy, or you can keep it really light and sort of peachy if that's the vibe you want to go for. And another thing I just want to point out with these palettes is that the choice of shimmer shadows is also really clever because it's not just a champagne shimmer in every palette. So here we have more of a peachy kind of tone here, one that pulls more like golden, which plays off really nicely with the reds, and then one that's almost sort of a warm version of taupe, if you will, over here. So again, it just adds to that versatility in these palettes. Next up is Optimistic AF, and this is another very warm toned palette. And I mean, it does look rather similar to Low Key Love You. And in fact, it looks like there could be a couple shades that overlap. So I'm just gonna do a couple little finger swatches. I do intend to swatch all of these and show those to you, but I just want to take a look in particular at Bay from Low Key Love You and Silver Lining from Optimistic AF. They are very, very similar. So this one is Bay and this one is from Optimistic AF. The one from Low Key Love You is just a little bit deeper. It's this one right here. But once it's applied to the eyes and blended out, I really don't think you'd be able to detect much of a difference at all. On this finger here, we have Currently Casual from Low Key Love You, and then Good Vibes Only from Optimistic AF is the one on top. So again, this is from the Optimistic AF palette, and this one is from Low Key Love You. And again, there are some differences there, but they're very, very similar. While I'm not necessarily upset by that, because I think having that deeper burgundy shade in both of these palettes really does help to create dimension on the eyes, deepen up the outer V, line the lower lash line, all of that good stuff. When you only have 9 pans in a palette, having overlap can make it a little bit more of a choice for consumers as to whether or not they really need both palettes or whether they can just get away with one. And really, that's where the similarities end, because over here, you can see that this one is not nearly as monochromatic as Low Key Love You was. This one has that nice inclusion of the orange and the yellows. This one is the only one with a shimmery white kind of shadow. And overall, personally, I think that this is much more versatile than Low Key Love You. Again, because this one is far more monochromatic, this one I think you can get more variety of looks out of, and this is one that if I had to choose between the two, this is the one that I would go for. Now, again, applying these, absolutely no complaints about that. Again, these mattes blend out beautifully, and the shimmers are just a dream to work with. They are not crumbly in the pan at all. They pick up very easily with the brush, and again, you don't need a setting spray with them, although if you do use a setting spray, you will see a little bit more intensity in terms of the reflection levels, but not by much. There are some different brands out there with their shimmers. They very much rely on having that setting spray applied in order for them to even have a hope of being particularly reflective. That's not the case with these palettes at all. These are beautiful straight out of the pan and do not need the assistance. So then the palette that I did not get around to using is this guy here called Fuck Off. Now inside it is a very moody kind of palette, as the palette name might suggest. And for whatever reason, although when I saw this on the website and when it first arrived, I was very inspired by it and I was very excited to start playing with these really deep, dark, grungy kind of tones, in particular this deep purple with the black. When it came down to actually sitting and filming a look, I just lost the motivation. I can't explain it. I honestly don't think it has anything to do with the palette. It has more to do with me and just how much is pinging around in my brain these days. So I have not applied this one to my eyes yet, but I did just want to share it with you at any rate. So then there are 2 other palettes as well, and I'm just going to pop pictures up on them. So we have this one here called Looking Like a Snack. And I am very tempted by that one. And frankly, in retrospect, I think this is the palette that I should have bought instead of this one, simply because I think the color story is a little bit easier to work with. When I pick up next month's Birthstone palette, maybe I'll add this one into the cart as well. We'll see. And then the last palette in the collection is this one called Do Not Disturb. And it's very pretty. And again, I'm not entirely sure why I didn't pick this one up. I think now that I have them in my hands, looking at those 2 more red toned palettes, I think I could have done away with just getting the one and adding this one instead. But again, I didn't, so here we are. All right, so first up, we're going to swatch the Let That Shit Go palette. So up first, we have Namaste, followed by Bust Out. Next is MJ, and then Good Karma. Then we have Chill Pill, Palo Santo, Sage Stick, Over It, and Shake It Off, which is a gorgeous lime green shimmer. All right, then we have the Low Key Love You palette. And first up, we have the shade Maybe Baby, followed by the shade DTR, which I am apparently not cool enough to know what that means. I don't know what that means. The next one is the shade Bay. And then My Fave. That's the name of the shade, not My Feelings. Next up is Catching Feelings, No Status, 143, Crush, And then the last one is Currently Casual. Moving on to Optimistic AF, we're going to start off with Bright Side, followed by Happy Camper. And this one has like a little bit of a gold shift to it as well, which is really pretty. Then we have Good Vibes Only and Silver Lining. Next is Ray of Sunshine, and then Half Full, followed by Smiley Face, Radiate, and the last one is LOL, which is gorgeous. That is such a beautiful shade. All right, so now we're going to go on to Swatch Fuck Off. So first one up is K-Bye, and then Get Lost, Bite Me, IDGAF, and then Middle Finger. Then we have Deuces, Beat It, Bitch Please, and the last one is Mic Drop. It's like a really deep, deep olive green. But look at that blue. It's so pretty. All right, so final thoughts on these palettes. The palettes perform so much better than what their $15 price point would suggest, and I love that. First of all, these are vegan, cruelty-free, and clean products, but they come to play. If you can make a $15 palette that performs to this standard, the people who are charging $85, $100, $170 for a palette, they need to up their game as well and certainly nail down the consistency from palette to palette. BH has figured it out and they have killed it with this collection yet again. The performance aspect is there. With 6 different palettes to choose from, there really is something for everybody. The only thing that's not included in this collection is a purely neutral kind of palette. Much like with their Sweet Shops, they had the Sugar Cone palette, which was all the browns and golds. They don't have that in this collection, but I don't necessarily think they need it. They have a lot of other palettes that have a much more neutral color story to them, and this, I don't know that a purely neutral palette would really fit the whole theming of this collection. So that's another thing as well, is that I like seeing them try something new. So they had their Weekender Vibes, where it was all sort of brunch kind of themed, and then travel cities and whatnot. They had the Sweet Shop, and now they have palettes called Let That Shit Go and Fuck Off. Like, it's a very different demographic that I think they might be aiming towards, and certainly it diverges from where they've gone in the past, and I don't fault them for that. Try something new, see how it lands, but make sure the quality of the products is there, and they have done that. So there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts on the Say It collection from BH Cosmetics. Like I said, I still have my eye on those other 2 palettes. I may or may not add them to cart when I pick up the June Birthstone palette, which is Pearl. I'm very curious to see what that's going to look like, but we will find out very soon because here we are. It's almost the end of May somehow. I'll take it. Yay, summer. Anyways, that is all I wanted to share with you today. If you picked up any of these palettes, I'd love to hear from you down below what your thoughts on them have been. I also want to know, what are your thoughts on the whole theming of this collection? Do you think they're going too far? Do you think they should have toned it down? Do you think it's hitting just right? What are your thoughts? There's no right or wrong answer. I'd just love to chat with you about it. At any rate, thank you for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.